ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदामूलं नराशीर्पदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 16, Praise of King Pṛthu by the Professional Reciters. So we are the first section of this chapter, text 1 to 3, where Sutta Magadha Ityadi, they are glorifying the great personality, Maharaj Pṛthu. So we are at text 3. Just a minute. Yeah. So the previous two verses we have seen that they are glorifying the qualifications and how Pṛthu Maharaj is directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the mood of their glorification. And now they are glorifying. Now we come to text 3 here. अत्युपदारश्रवसा पृथे पृथोर्हरेर् कलावतारस्य कथामृतं धृताः यथोपदेशं मुनिभिः प्रत्योदिताः श्लाघ्यानि कर्माणि वयं वितन्महि. Translation.
Translation: Although we are unable to glorify you adequately, we nonetheless have a transcendental taste for glorifying your activities. We shall try to glorify you according to the instructions received from authoritative sages and scholars. Whatever we speak, however, is always inadequate and very insignificant. Dear King, because you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all your activities are liberal and ever laudable. Purport: However expert one may be, he can never describe the glories of the Lord adequately. Nonetheless, those engaged in glorifying the activities of the Lord should try to do so as far as possible. Such an attempt will please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya has advised all his followers to go everywhere and preach the message of Lord Krishna. Since this message is essentially Bhagavad Gita, the preacher's duty is to study Bhagavad Gita as it is understood by disciplic succession and explained by great sages and learned devotees. One should speak to the general populace in accordance with one's predecessors, sadhu, guru, and shastras. This simple process is the easiest method by which one can glorify the Lord. Devotional service, however, is the real method, for by devotional service one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead with just a few words. Without devotional service, volumes of books cannot satisfy the Lord. Even though preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement may be unable to describe the glories of the Lord, they can nonetheless go everywhere and request people to chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So they continued. Although, so the mood here is in great jubilation, satisfaction, everybody is in happy mood. Pṛthu Maharaj is saying, let me do something and then glorify. And they said, what can you glorify? And they said, yes, Maharaj Pṛthu, what can we glorify? We are unable to glorify you adequately, but nonetheless, we will do so as your activities. We are addicted to the taste of glorifying your activities. Right. So, this is the first reason they say we are addicted to the taste of glorifying your activities. The second is we are also instructed by our spiritual masters, the instructions received from the authorities and the scholars. However, we are aware that whatever we can speak, it is very, very insignificant compared to your glories, O Supreme Lord. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, however expert one may be, he can never describe glories of the Lord adequately. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are two examples for this. Example is that the bird can fly. The sparrow can fly, whatever the capacity sparrow has, and the eagle can fly. But compared to the vastness of the space, how much a bird can fly? Bird can fly according to its own capacity. The fish can swim, but what is the depth the fish can swim? And what is the depth of the ocean? Right? So the bird can fly, the fish can swim, but they can fly and swim according to their own limitations. However, the context is unlimited, right? The sky is unlimited, ocean is unlimited, and similarly, glories of the Supreme Lord are also unlimited. How much we can glorify? Yatha Shakti, Yatha Matihi. However, insignificant one's knowledge is, Prabhupada writes here, one should always try to glorify the Supreme Lord as much as possible. Right. And what is the meaning of glorify the Supreme Lord? Very clearly, Prabhupada says, Lord Chaitanya has advised us, Bharat Bhumite, Manushya Janma Jailajar, Janma Sarthaka Kari, Kara Paropakar. That one should take the message of Bhagavad Gita and speak to the masses. Whomever, we can speak to one person, 4 people, 10 people, some empowered personality can speak to thousands of devout people. But taking the message to the masses, this is the simple process. And this is the easiest method by which one can glorify the Supreme Lord. So, what is the method of glorifying the Supreme Lord? Spread Bhagavad Gita, right? And in Bhagavad Gita describes devotional service, that is the real method. And one can easily satisfy the Supreme Lord by simple few words. And however, without devotional service, it is very difficult to satisfy the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada says, simply going out, spreading the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, doing the Harinam Sankirtan, chant Hare Krishna, and that is adequate glorification of the Supreme Lord. Lord is very happy with such devotees. Text 4. एष धर्मभृतां श्रेष्ठो लोकं धर्मे अनुवर्तयन् गोप्ता च धर्मसेतूनां शास्ता तत्परिपन्थिनाम्. Translation.
This king, Maharaj Pṛthu, is the best amongst those who are following religious principles. As such, he will engage everyone in the pursuit of religious principles, and give those principles all protection. He will also be a great chastiser to the irreligious and atheistic. But the duty of the king or the head of the government is described very nicely in this verse. It is the duty of the government head to see that people strictly follow a religious life. A king should also be strict in chastising the atheist. In other words, an atheistic or godless government should never be supported by a king or governmental chief. That is the test of good government. In the name of secular government, the king or governmental head remains neutral and allows people to engage in all sorts of irreligious activities. In such a state, people cannot be happy despite all economic development. However, in this age of Kali, there are no pious kings. Instead, rogues and thieves are elected to head the government. But how can the people be happy without religion and God consciousness? The rogues exact taxes from the citizens for their own sense enjoyment. And in the future, the people will be so much harassed that according to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, they will flee from their homes and country and take shelter in the forest. However, in Kali Yuga, democratic government can be captured by Krishna. Krishna conscious people. In this, if this can be done, the general populace can be made very happy.
Yeah. And now here, this king, they continue, is the best among those who are following the religious principles. He is Dharma Bhritam Sreshto. First is. Second is, he will engage everyone in pursuit of religious principles. Lokam dharme anuvartayan goptacha dharma setunam shasta, and gave those principles all protection. Right? So he himself will follow, will engage people, will give protection to the principles themselves, and then he will be the great chastiser of the irreligious and atheistic. Tat paripanthena. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains these four things are the duties of the king or the head of the government, and they are described very nicely here. It is duty of the king to see that the people are following their religious life very strictly, and he should be strict in chastising the atheist. And Prabhupada says, in the name of the secular government, what has happened now is simply a hodgepodge. The head remains neutral and allows people to engage in all sort of irreligious activities. And people, although they are so-called economically well placed, there is economic development, but still there is a great dissatisfaction. And later Prabhupada mentions that the Sivrajakulation, that Kali Yuga, as the Kali Yuga will progress, the kings will be like rogues and thieves. They will simply extract the taxes, and people will be harassed so much that they will flee to the forest to avoid the taxes. And therefore, in Kali Yuga, only method is chanting Hare Krishna. Somewhere, someplace, if devotees can become the rulers, that will be very nice. So Prabhupada is predicting that there will be Hare Krishna devotee ruling some parts of the world and making the place God conscious. Text 5. एष वै लोकपालानां विवर्तेकस्तनौ तनुः काले काले यथा भागं लोकयो उभयो हितम्. Translation.
This king alone in his own body will be able in due course of time to maintain all living entities and keep them in a pleasant condition by manifesting himself as different demigods to perform various departmental activities. Thus, he will maintain the upper planetary system by inducing the opulence to perform Vedic sacrifices. In due course of time, he will also maintain this earthly planet by discharging proper rainfall. Purport: the demigods in charge of the various departmental activity that maintain this world are but assistants to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When an incarnation of Godhead descends to this planet, demigods like the sun god, the moon god, or the king of heaven, Indra, all join him. Consequently, the incarnation of God is able to act for the departmental demigods to keep the planetary systems in order. The protection of the earthly planet is dependent on proper rainfall. And as stated in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, sacrifices are performed to please those demigods who are in charge of rainfall. Annad bhavanti bhutani parajanyad annasambhava yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Grains are produced by performance of yagya, sacrifice, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. Bhagavad Gita 3.14. Thus, the proper execution of yagya, sacrifice, is required. As indicated herein, King Pṛthu alone would induce all the citizens to engage in such sacrificial activities so that there would not be scarcity or distress. In Kali Yuga, however, in the so-called secular state, the executive branch of government is in charge. is in the charge of so-called kings and presidents who are all fools and rascals, ignorant of the intricacies of nature's cause and ignorant of the principles of sacrifice. Such rascals simply make various plans which always fail, and the people subsequently suffer disturbances. To counteract this situation, the Shastras advise Hare Nam, Hare Nameva Kevalam, Kalev Nashteva Eva Gatiranyatha. Thus, in order to counteract this unfortunate situation in government, the general populace is advised to chant the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Further, the Magadhas, they are glorifying. This king alone will maintain all living entities and keep them in the pleasant condition. He will maintain the higher planetary systems by performing Vedic sacrifices, and he will maintain the earth by ensuring there is a proper rainfall. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are various demigods who are in charge of the departmental activities, and they are assistant to the Supreme Lord in maintaining the universe. And whenever the Supreme Lord comes as the incarnation, all the demigods will also join. Just like when the president or the owner of the company comes, say the Ratan Tata, when he comes to Pune, all the department heads of Tata Motors will join him. Similarly, when the Supreme Lord takes incarnation, all other department heads who are like the demigods, they will also join him. Further, Prabhupada mentions that the protection of the earthly planet depends on proper rainfall. Right. And one has to perform the sacrifices to ensure there is proper rainfall. Yajñāt bhavanti parjanyam. This is the real science, right? Real science is that there is yajñāt bhavanti parjanyam. How the rain happens, that can be explained. The evaporation takes place, sedimentation takes place, wind, this and that. But if you see the universal scale, at which even by the modern science, we are such a small speck within the galaxy, and all the rains and everything so very carefully adjusted, even by going by all the scientific explanation, all the science explanation, then also one can simply but that wonder that there must be God controlling everything, purely going by science, right? So this is the real scientific understanding. This is yajñāt bhavanti parjanya. Real science is Bhagavad Gita 3.4. So value of pi is also 3.14. Okay. So pi 22 by 7, 3.14. This is how we can remember Bhagavad Gita 3.14. Yajñāt bhavanti parjanya. And therefore, proper execution of yajna is required. King Pṛthu, he alone ensured that all the citizens are engaged in proper yajna, and not like the modern day state government where you pay the taxes and do whatever you want. The government has nothing to do with people in general. And therefore, in such a precarious condition, Prabhupada says here, people are going on having one commission after another, one plan after another. But, the only remedy in such unfortunate situation on the government, the only remedy is chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 6. Vasukala upadatte kale chayam vimunchati samah sarveshu bhuteshu pratapan suryavad vibhuh. Translation.
This King Pṛthu will be as powerful as the sun god, and just as the sun god equally distributes his sunshine to everyone, King Pṛthu will distribute his mercy equally. Similarly, just as the sun god evaporates water for 8 months and during the rainy season returns it profusely, this king will also exact taxes from the citizens and returns these monies in times of need. Purport: the process of tax exaction is very nicely explained in this verse. Tax exaction is not meant for the sense gratification of the so-called administrative heads. Tax revenues should be distributed to the citizens in times of need during emergencies such as famine or flood. Tax revenues should never be distributed amongst the governmental servants in the form of high salaries and various other allowances. In Kali Yuga, however, the position of citizens is very horrible because taxes are exacted in so many forms and are spent for the personal comforts of the administrators. The example of sun in this verse is very appropriate. The sun is many millions of miles away from the earth, and although the sun does not actually touch the earth, it manages to distribute land all over the planet by exacting water from the oceans and seas, and it also manages to make that land fertile by distributing water during the rainy season. As an ideal king, King Pṛthu would execute all this business in the village and state as expertly as the sun.
Yeah. This King Pṛthu is as powerful as the sun. Suryavat Vibhuhu. Vibhuhu means as powerful. And he will be as selfless as the sun. He will be as equal as the sun. So there are three attributes of the sun god are being mentioned here. That the power, the selflessness, that he is extracting the taxes, and there is also equality. These are the three things are being mentioned here. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the process of taxation is very wonderfully explained. Government should extract the taxes so that they can be distributed during the proper times, such as famine or flood. Right? Tax revenues are not to be distributed amongst the government servants in the form of high salaries and various allowances. Right? This is generally happens. In Kali Yuga, the position will become very horrible. So one may see Prabhupada writing that position becoming very horrible and everything. And if we can see the numbers, then actually one can realize what it is. Of course, we are not against anything or anybody, but the point here is that almost like 68% of the revenue that the government collects is distributed in paying the salaries of the government servants and the pensions and everything else. And the pay commission after pay commission. So there is a dissent among the society. And this also we can see that during the emergencies like Corona times, that 5 kilo per head, per member, the ration is being distributed for almost 80 crore people. That scheme is still going on. Then there is Ladli Behan. Of course, it can be debated whether it is what is the intention of that, winning elections or what it is. But it is actually the duty of the government to, maintain the citizens. So generally, how the government will maintain the citizens in the Sanatana economics is that the rich class of the people, they will make the facilities are made available, like the land and other places, so that they can have the manufacturing unit, they can have their own factories they can put up. The middle class can be engaged. For the middle class, these factories will generate the kind of employment, and for the poor class, directly there will be the direct benefit transfer. Directly money will be given, directly ration will be given, so on and so forth. So this is typically the Sanatan economics, that on the top of the rich people of the society, give them facilities so that they can create employment for the middle section of the society. And if the lowest section of the society who are unable to be employed or something like that, then maintain them directly by direct benefits. And it is debatable again, everything here is debatable. But the point is, it is government's duty to maintain the citizens. So, it is government's duty to transfer the benefits to the citizens. And Kali Yuga, everything goes topsy-turvy. Kali Yuga, is not a place to see all these things happening to their perfection, but some resemblance somewhere, and we can say, okay, something is happening. But Kali Yuga, things go very, very topsy-turvy. Okay. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Slightly closing early today. We'll continue tomorrow.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.